Chapter 1, Smokin Smokestacks, Part 2. In Mrs. Winnie's boarding house, Granddad opened one eye, shook his head, closed it, then opened both. "Hello, son. You didn't waste any time getting down here." "The ice jam was 2 days ago. It's unseemly you're laying on a camp cot in a boarding house kitchen." "Oh, nobody will read it in the Argus unless you report it. Mrs. Winnie says I'm better here than climbing that death trap she calls a staircase." "Watch out for that third tread," he barked in a hoarse, high voice, imitating the very kindly owner. "Where's my son?" Captain was never one to talk about the weather first. "Get right to the point," was his motto. J.J. pictured his father's housekeeper-turned-wife probably stitching it into a sampler to hang on the wall above their bed. Granddad said you had a better chance avoiding a hornet than one of his questions. In a husky voice, he spoke slowly, not because he had to. But if he didn't, this conversation was going to be another one of those ending in, "Well, what are you going to do about J.J.?" "Your son is in our room. If he hadn't come down with me, I'd be having this conversation from my coffin." After you go up and chew him out, he storms down the stairs, slams the doors, and disappears. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you you can have a dozen sons, but never one like that young man. Why, he did things a stevedore would have trouble by himself. Oh, but don't let me stop you. Chew away. Granddad closed his eyes, pulled the covers up around his neck, gave a little tuck-like shiver. The captain made for the stairs. The third tread screeched like a cat had put its tail under a rocking chair and knocked twice on the only closed door. "What were you doing down here anyway? That's what I want to know." The man ran his fingers through thinning black hair. His face was flushed, but not yet crimson, and he paced back and forth across the foot of the bed. J.J. knew that in the game of Granddad and the Captain, Granddad had made the first point. But his father continued to fume, hoping to even the score. "Granddad brought me down to help get Austin ready for spring, sir. He said the ice is going out early thanks to 2 weeks of overly mild weather and rain." "Oh, so Granddad can predict the weather now. One more thing for you to carve on his pedestal." "Oh, no, sir. He says after you've been 60 years on the river, it whispers a few secrets, if you care to listen. Just stand on the ice, and if you feel a shiver that isn't cold, it won't be long. He gets a lot of mileage from his 'when you've been on the river for 60 years excuse. Your Granddad knows I don't want you down here. You're supposed to be at the Albany Academy for Boys, not down here in this godforsaken boatyard. I'll be back to finish with you. I just want to know how long he expects to inconvenience his landlady." J.J. waited until he could hear the discussion in the kitchen below. He dressed warmly and slowly walked down the hill toward the boatyard, his fists pushed deep in his trouser pockets. Tuck had worked himself out from the far back corner under the bed and walked out the door behind his sidekick, very carefully on his pads, without a single click of his toenails. "He doesn't even care that I saved Granddad. He might have burned up on the Austin if that lantern had been full. Never pays me any attention. Makes me live with Gran and Granddad. Every time we're together, he's yelling at me." Deep in thought, he started when Mr. Cornell's team pulled up beside them, steam rising from their backs in the sharp morning air. "How's your grandfather, young man? I hear you pulled him across the ice, then rowed him over to shore all by yourself." "He's pretty bruised, but I think he's going to be all right. Father's down here and talking with him now at Mrs. Winnie's. Mr. Cornell took a moment to adjust the collar on his black caracal lamb coat. He smiled at the lad's remark. Captain Jeremiah Austin the Younger got in a passel of trouble. I was in his class at the academy. Old Dr. Edwards kept track of the wrong answers you gave, and when you reached 10, it was up front for 5 swats from his willow cane. Your father was known as Jesus. The whole school figured he'd been thrashed more times than our Lord before his crucifixion. He never got an answer right the first time. He was always so self-assured he'd give an answer even if he knew it was wrong, just to be the first. This reminiscence gave J.J. a chance to study his horses. Those he observed on the New York wharves were docile and self-assured. These two would not stand. First, one would shift a front leg, the other shiver. Then the first would jib to the side. Before Mr. Cornell could say, "Walk on," they were off. Before he went back to Mrs. Arrow, his housekeeper-turned-wife, Captain Austin the Younger got Mr. Cuthbert to take their picture on the Austin. Not just one copy, 2. He even paid extra to have it done in silver colloid and 14 inches wide. 2 weeks later, they were mounted in narrow frames that looked like somebody had dipped a piece of rope in gold with knots in the corners. One copy was in his office at 57 Key Street. The other was hanging over J.J.'s bed at 90 Beaver Street. This is the end of Chapter 1.